I have one little mini thing that isn't much of a thing at all, but it's breaking news as we record. And even though it will be old news by the time, you know,
This
anybody listens
releases.
to it, uh, it was just interesting to note that issue one, which was a single issue vote in Ohio, looks as though it will be definitively voted no against, which uh, I think the main reason I wanted to call it out, because I'm not even planning to link it in the show notes, is just that occasionally a little bit of a thing gives you a hope that people are paying attention and willing to turn out in the polls. And this is one of those little things. So, issue one was specifically an attempt to change how the state's amendments were uh, voted on, like what the bar necessary to clear for an amendment to become part of the Constitution, where Ohio has always required a simple majority and a certain percentage of signatories among 44 counties. The Republican led bill or issue that was being voted on was attempting to make it require 60% of the population and a percentage of signatories from 88 counties. So basically, 10% increase, or yeah, 10% increase as far as numerical um, percentage of the vote, and doubling the number of counties represented. I don't know how many counties are actually in Ohio total. I probably should have looked that up. I would assume 88, which is where they got the number. Um, but at the time that I looked at the news article, it was close to 60% voting no against this proposed law. And that's just a general positive for democracy at large. And that's kind of the main reason I wanted to mention it. And it doesn't really tie into anything else planned for the show, but it's just a kind of a glimmer of hope that sometimes people pay attention and actually go to the polls.
Some real time FU is that Ohio is comprised of 88 counties. You were correct.
I kind of assumed when I read it, and I realized as I was talking about it, it was an assumption and not me confirming it. So, yeah, that makes sense.
It also makes sense if we're going to require 50% of it, 50% of the vote to pass this that comes from half of the county. So that works. So yeah, they were trying to lock it in, and they didn't.
Yeah, and there's certainly more detail that's interesting with regard to nuance and political movement and everything else. If you want to know all the ins and outs, by all means, take a look at a search for issue one in Ohio. You'll find it. I don't necessarily delve into it because we have a different topic that you mentioned or put in the notes that I found fascinating, that I kind of twisted a little bit with a clip that I sent you to be an add-on to that topic.
Yeah,
I guess as a good way to think of it. It's not as clear-cut as yours, but yours is one that I found. I would let you introduce the topic because it just I love the concept.
I came across this and I was like, oh, this is perfect because like our show quite often boils down to being a decent person, and I like how they put this: the ultimate litmus test for whether or not a person is able to self-govern is whether or not you put the shopping cart back where the shopping cart goes. And the concept is you go to a store, you have a shopping cart, you take it out to the parking lot, you unload your things. Do you just leave your shopping cart in the middle of the parking lot? Do you put it in a space that is designated, meant for a car, or do you return it to the space that is designated for shopping carts, which is whether or not you can self-govern. And you know what? Here's on top of that, and this is something that I do every once in a while, and that is like, if I see a shopping cart that's out, I'll go get it and take it in and use that shopping cart, and that'll be my shopping cart. So, Like if it's not in the designated shopping cart space, I'll pick it up and take it in, and I'll use that as my shopping cart. And if I'm parked close enough to the wherever the store that I'm going to, I'll sometimes put my shopping cart back where it belongs, so that the employee doesn't have to. It's one less cart that they have to get. Not that that necessarily makes a difference, but I like to think it, makes me feel good about myself. So, yeah.
So occasionally I will grab, an abandoned cart and use it similarly. That mostly depends on just general path and trajectory. It's more a matter of convenience for me if I'm going to do that. Like I don't go searching one out for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it makes you a better person. I just think it means it's like, oh, okay, that's
where I was going with it, though, is I have never once taken a cart and returned it to where the carts are in the store. Like I have always returned it to a designated place for carts out in the parking lot, or in the case of like the Super Target over here on 150, there's also, if you park all across a median, you can take it up to beside the store where they have the excess shopping carts lined up from when they pull them in. So that, by default, to me is another return area. But I have never taken it from the parking lot back inside the store to put it back in the row of carts. That's where I was going with my little chain of comments.
I was going to say I've never. I'll read this. I'll read this so that we can get the full effect here, and if that's all right.
Absolutely.
But the shopping cart test goes with. To return the shopping cart is an easy, convenient task, and one which we all recognize as the correct, appropriate thing to do. To return the cart is objectively right. There are no situations other than dire emergencies in which a person is not able to return their cart. Simultaneously, it is not illegal to abandon your shopping cart. Therefore, the shopping cart presents itself as the apex example of whether a person will do what is right without being forced to do it. No one will punish you for not returning the shopping cart. Asterisk. No one will fine you or kill you for not returning the shopping cart. You gain nothing by returning the shopping cart. You must return the shopping cart out of the goodness of your heart. You must return the shopping cart because it is the right thing to do, because it is correct. A person who is unable to do this is no better than an animal, an absolute savage who can only be made to do what is right by threatening them with a law and the force that stands behind it. The shopping cart is what determines whether a person is a good or bad member of society. I said asterisk because I've never had the privilege, but I've seen a couple of videos where somebody did not return the shopping cart and somebody else in the parking lot noticed it, said something to them. They continued, they basically told that person to go about their day and that they weren't going to return the shopping cart. And so that person kept putting the shopping cart behind their car so that they couldn't get out. I've seen that a few times, and I just like, I want to be in that situation. I want to be given the opportunity to do that one day. And it's like, woman is trying to leave she gets in her car. Guy puts the shopping cart directly behind her car. So she's either going to hit the shopping cart or she has to get out and move the shopping cart. She gets out, moves the shopping cart. He puts it back. And like 3 or 4 times, I remember he did this 3 or 4 times until she put the shopping cart back where it actually belongs. It was pretty. It's pretty great.
It's very satisfying as far as, thoughts go. Because I don't know why it is also one of the most infuriating things to see happen. And I think it's only infuriating for those people who recognize that it's insanely simple and there's no reason not to return it.
Right. And and it's just like, goddamn. Can't we live together and just do something because it's right and there's no other reason to do it? It is clearly the right option.
And I think the most infuriating ones are the ones that are 1 or 2 parking spaces removed from the appropriate place to return it anyway. I mean, when you're that close, come on.
I've seen once where somebody surrounded a car with shopping carts.
I've seen, I don't remember if it was a GIF or a short clip, but I've seen that kind of thing a couple of times
Yeah.
on, yeah.
So it's so what it so it comes down to is like what is the it makes me wonder is like what is why can't
So part of why I added this other one to this conversation is because it makes me think there's a underlying relationship that I'm not sure exactly what it is. And so I'm going to go ahead and read the little snippet for what prompted the add-on, which is it was in the speech. I don't remember. I think it was a commencement address at Northwest U. But Pritzker, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, explained that the kindest people in the room are often the smartest, since those who act with cruelty have failed the quote unquote first test of an advanced society and never forced their animal brain to evolve past its first instinct. So basically, I rephrased that a little bit in the notes to say that empathy is the litmus test for being a part of society. Because the gist of the speech and the snippet that I sent you, just for the sake of anybody listening, talks about how those who empathize with others and are able to objectively look at something that is not the same, that or someone or something that is not the same or not understood, and not immediately resort to lashing out, not being overly suspicious and cruel because of that difference. Because that's how we navigated life prior to being able to understand and form any type of complex thoughts. We pattern matched, basically. And it goes back to labeling, like why labeling is important in some contexts is because that's how we navigate the world. It's how we're wired as humans to look at something that we do or don't know and figure out how familiar it is to something else, and therefore infer our reaction at a very basic instinctual level. And so empathy supersedes that basic instinctual reaction because it allows for advanced understanding and thought about what the situation is. And so going back to the shopping cart example, I think it's related to the basic lack of any kind of advanced thought and more the this is convenient and doesn't appear to cause a problem to me, and therefore I am able to continue about what I need to do. There's no advanced level of thought to it. It's purely survival. Like this removes an obstacle for my functioning and allows me to continue to function.
it's from the lesser evolved cretins.
Yeah,
I mean,
basically.
that's basic. That, I mean,
it's
that
true.
I mean, in the video clip, and I didn't see exactly what you sent me, but I saw this. I saw the speech, and I saw where he was talking about like we're curious, the curiosity that we have and the suspiciousness that we have is why we have survived and why we have moved forward, and that as a species, and that's something that we now have to begin to overcome because we are advancing in society, and the next step in evolution is being able to empathize and accept the differences because they are not, just because it's different isn't mean it's unsafe or harmful.
And I don't remember where I came across this particular sentiment or the way it was expressed, but the relationship between fear of the unknown and acceptance or empathizing with someone in a different situation is a very difficult skill that requires actually trying to understand another individual. As long as all you are concerned about is your own survival and well-being, and you're not attempting to figure out how your actions or behaviors or anything else affect anybody else around you, whether it's someone you care about or not. It's completely irrelevant for this particular example. It's just trying to be mindful of or aware of the reactions that you evoke in other people that becomes basically that higher level of functioning. And most people just aren't aware of themselves. And that's what it comes down to. There's a false belief that they are aware of much greater issues at large, or a more intricate knowledge on a subject than other people are grasping, but there's not an awareness of self. And if there's not an awareness of self, there's not an awareness of your reactions or the reactions you evoke from other people, which means that there's not an awareness of anything other than what serves you.
And this can all be pushed into the realm of skin color, culture, food, clothing, rituals, religion, and
anything that we have defined with a label, which is what makes this so great a topic in general. The one of one of the other articles that I came across that I thought about linking, I don't remember the name of the individual. There was a very prominent evangelical individual who found themselves ousted from the Southern Baptist, or would you call it an organization, conglomerate? I don't know.
It's a denomination.
Affiliation? No. Denominations are for
convention. It's a convention.
There you go. That's a better word. Sorry, I had to poke fun a little bit there. But they were sane in denouncing our former president's actions and behaviors and everything else, and were basically ousted for it, right? Because evangelicals have, for some reason or another, rallied behind former president as well. And that's a whole different topic. I don't want to take us down there. But the article that I almost linked was a kind of a profile of that particular person's thought processes. And one of the things that stuck out from that article was discussing how this particular person thought that Christianity was in crisis because it no longer looked at the teachings of Christianity as superior to the desires of the individual. And it's a long setup, but that particular piece was driven by his interactions with people who would say, when you preach to turn the other cheek, that doesn't work anymore. That's too weak. That was the response he was getting, right? And there's a whole different level of how wrong you have to be to say, I believe I'm a Christian and I follow this thing and I'm a part of this religion, but what you're telling me is too weak for modern times. Like, how fucked up does that get? But that's, again, the setup is more a matter of, it illustrates the same base level mindset of, this is something that doesn't fit my comfort zone. It doesn't work with how I want things to work, or it doesn't work with how I view the world, and therefore it is wrong. And when you can apply that to things like returning a shopping cart to its proper place, or empathizing with someone just because they're a little bit different, or the teachings that you seem to want to hold dear as a quote-unquote self-proclaimed Christian, there's something really fucked up about your view of the world.
Well, I mean, a lot of mainstream Christianity doesn't understand Christianity. They don't understand teachings of Christ. They, in this country, it's really important to be a winner.
I would clarify that in absolutely no known case of what I would call, or what I would identify as mainstream Christianity, is anything properly taught as Christianity. But that's, I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. I'm just going to say what I have seen does not match what the proper teaching would be.
Right, right. So I mean, that's nobody can. Yeah, you're talking about your experience, and nobody can say, well, your experience is wrong. No, your experience is your experience, and so I can be totally on board with this.
Yeah, but I didn't want to
But
derail it completely into
no,
you
no.
know. It's just it's hilarious to me how strong a parallel there are between those three examples and how diverse those examples are.
Yes. And so and I think it's trending, continuing. The trend is continuing to push in this direction. And I think maybe if we looked at Christianity 50 years ago, we didn't quite see it as bad as it is, because there were other things in place that kept the the privilege and the power dynamic shifted in the direction that it was. And I feel like over the past, I don't know how long. Well, it's been more than 50 years for sure, but like at least in our observable lifetime, we've definitely seen a significant shift in Christianity, um, to a place of meekness, to a place of aggression, and in many form, in not just one particular denominator, but like across the gamut. Maybe Catholicism has stayed consistent in its position, and maybe Catholicism has gotten a little more tolerant. But I think we see the shift because uh, the the there's a power dynamic shift from white Americans to um, a more diverse and tolerant society. We have more tolerance towards gayness. We have more tolerance towards transness. We have more tolerance towards, um, you know, non-binary sexualities. We have more, we are, the people of color are fighting for their lives, and they're not just, they're not taking it lying down anymore. They're continuing to seek equality and equity. So, um, I think that is the reason why Christianity has become more hostile.
I I agree in general. I think the no. I paused because I wanted to give myself a break point just in case. But there was something else that I wanted to kind of hit on that I think is part of the equation as well, which is there is a growing vocalness to a certain subset of Christianity that seems like it represents the whole of Christianity. And it's oftentimes ignored or not easily seen. But that subset is the evangelical Southern Baptist and similar denominations
Yes.
that want to promote the idea of Christian nationalism.
They're pushing for a theocracy.
Yes.
I think it was Josh Hawley that was like literally promoting theocracy, like wanted to replace our current government with a a deity based government. So
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but technically, Trump pushed this narrative, and that's how he really solidified his voter base to get elected in the first place, because he promoted the idea of Christian nationalism, which is exactly what you're describing to an extent. Christian nationalism would be slightly different in the respect of it would take the existing government and just adopt Christianity as the official religion.
Yeah.
Which is completely counterintuitive to why the nation was formed, just for those who might have forgotten a little bit of history. But even then, like, nations evolve. That's fine. If you create this, project or attempt to go through doing this through legal channels and you have the majority of votes to do it, so be it, right? And that's how everything works, or is supposed to work. But here's the general problem. you have to change the Constitution before you can do that.
Yes.
So if you can't change the Constitution, you can't make the United States a Christian nation. That has to happen first. Like, it, full stop. You can't just on a whim decide we're a Christian nation. You can't just pass a law saying Christianity is the national law of the United States, because the country wasn't built to have a national religion. Full stop. Outside of that, why would you want to? What's the purpose of a national religion? It's to take any viewpoint that is not your own and persecute. That's it. That's the only thing that it exists for. Or I guess you could make the argument that you want to create the environment where that religion thrives, but that's just a backwards way of saying I want to persecute those who aren't following my religion.
Well, I mean, that's, it's the actions, the resulting actions are the same, but the viewpoint, like how we spin it is like, or it's how
Right.
you want to spin it. But
here's the core problem with that, though. What does Christianity teach? It teaches to be accepting of other viewpoints.
Yeah.
So how can you create this idea of Christian nationalism and see it through? Let's just say you get to that point and then persecute others for viewing something else. The only way you can do it is if you're a part of this extremist evangelical denominatory group of, I'm going to call them just loonies, but I'm sure that would
It's a
generate
cult.
hate mail if we actually had people listening.
Well, I think step one is to go and wade in the mire of irony. Yeah, because it is. So if you look at the way our government was set up, and I've said this many times before on other topics, and that is that if you start wondering what the founding fathers were trying to think of, like what did they have in mind, what decisions would they make right now? It's like, well, you don't understand our government. They don't want you to think, well, what would they have done? They want you to change the government as needed, slowly and carefully. So that does open us up for allowing this country to be changed into a Christian nation. But there's an order, there's a process in which that has to be done. And, I think it's relatively safe that it's not going to happen, at least maybe not in our lifetime. But, if it does, it's because the majority of the people wanted that. And like a significant majority. But so that puts us in place, well, what should we be doing? And that is that we should be following the Constitution. And I think we are in a place where we are long overdue for anti-corruption laws. That's where we are.
I mean, at this point, I don't even know that that's enough of an answer. I mean, I understand that certainly feeds a number of other things, but just a simple code of ethics in some places would be a solid first step. Like I don't think you can get to anti-corruption laws until you have all branches of government conforming to a common rule of ethical behavior.
I think maybe anti-corruption laws come from, like, it's going to require a grassroots movement. It's got to start at the local and state levels, and at some point, if there are enough states that have passed anti-corruption laws, then I think we start seeing a federal anti-corruption law, and other states following, the majority of states following suit. We saw this with gay marriage. We saw this with I think we're about to see this with the legalization of marijuana. There's going to be a tipping point where it's going to become federally legal, like it was with gay marriage, and I don't see, like, that's the sort of expectation I would have for an anti-corruption, or see how we would get to a federal anti-corruption law.
The only problem with that currently is that the states are still too focused on attempting to subvert democratic processes.
Absolutely.
which is exactly what the issue 1 vote in Ohio was trying to do.
It would be great if the state of Georgia makes a big example of how it is not okay to subvert the democratic process. I'm hoping we see that soon.
Yeah, I am too. I'm hoping that there's significant traction with the attempts to subvert the democratic process with the DC indictment as well.
Yep. Yeah. I think it was Roy Wood Jr. who was talking about, maybe it was somebody else, I can't remember, but somebody was talking about, this is a day that you're going to remember. And it's like, where were you when Trump was indicted? I was like, I don't know. It's like, he's been indicted so many times that it's like, I don't remember. Like, anywhere. I could have been anywhere. We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after-show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.